Jared Goff of the last 15 games dating back to when the Lions were 8-2, now to this season. 8-2, 4-1. He has a passer rating of 104, 3,800 yards, 26 TDs, and 4 picks in the last 15 games. You know what the Lions' record is during that stretch? 12-3.
Take that. Take that.
Take that for data.
Take that for stats.
That's data on your franchise quarterback. Jared Goff is balling, and last night he had a couple throws to the throws to Reynolds were just on point. And in general, Jared Goff, it seems like it's getting to the point now with Jared where, you know, certain quarterbacks, you lose some weapons, you're concerned. As long as Jared's in that lineup, you have a chance. That's what it seems like at this point. He's playing his best football. And, you know, for Jared, he's always been a quarterback you can win with, not win because of. But last night, they won because of Jared. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over. He played a clean game. What? Talk to me, Sam.
I don't know about win because of. A lot of things went their way. They had a lot of short fields. They did. I'm not. Are you really going to say that I'm taking away from what Jared Goff did? I'm not.
I just know if Jared threw a pick or two, we'd be having a different convo. So we're not. It's like we're going to fault him if he throws a pick, and if he doesn't, it's like, oh, the whole team won. No, Jared deserves a lot of that victory. Like 3 TDs, Sam.
Four.
Four, including a rushing TD?
With no Amon-Ra St.
Tell
Brown.
me who was more valuable. I'll wait.
Yesterday, you know what? Jared Goff was great. I'm not saying that he wasn't. You know what? I'm not even going to defend that because I'm not hating on Jared Goff. Let me give you my Jared Goff flowers right now because I've got some. I've got them all written down because I have too been very, very impressed with the way that Jared Goff has played. So when you look at him versus the rest of the NFL quarterbacks right now, he is 6th in completion percentage, 9th in passing yards, 4th in yards per attempt, tied for 7th in touchdown passes, 5th in QBR, 6th in passer rating, and is on pace for 31 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So by those numbers, Jared Goff is I would say definitely a top 10 quarterback this year, so maybe even top 5 to 7. I don't know about top 5, but still definitely a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. And you know the thing about Jared Goff too that I've really, really liked, and I've heard this and I've seen this, and it plays out when you look at the stats and when you watch the games. Jared Goff has been remarkably consistent. He has been very, very good, at like some level of good in every single game that the Lions have played this year. I mean, the least amount of completions he's had in a game this year is 19, which isn't bad, and that was in their 34-20 victory over the Packers. The lowest completion percentage he's had in a game this season is 62.9, which isn't bad. He hasn't had one game where he's had a completion percentage in the 50s, and that was in their 21-20 victory at Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs. His lowest yards in attempt for a game is 7.2, which again is not bad, and that is his lowest, and that was also against the Chiefs.
Right.
He has had at least one touchdown pass in every single game, and his lowest quarterback rating and QBR in a game is 85.8 for the rating and 55.3 for the QBR, respectively, in the Lions' 20-6 victory over the Falcons. So he has never had that terrible game or that even bad game or even that mediocre game in which he has cost his team. He has been remarkably consistent. He's also had 2 games with a passer rating over 120, 2 games with 3 touchdown passes, 2 games with 0 interceptions, and 2 games with completion percentage over 70. And all of those games where I mentioned where he had his low moments this year, at least in terms of stats, every single one of those games was a win. And in the one game that they did lose, he led the team to 31 points. So Jared Goff he is having the best season of his career. He's at least on pace to have the best season of his career.
And guess what? We had this conversation last year at the end of it. Well, this is arguably the best season of his career. Well, guess what? Here's another one. And the interceptions are one thing, right? People, of course, he had to clean that up. But the Panthers, a team that, again, it's easy to sleep on the Panthers because they're bad. And Jared, they came in, he was locked in. And, of course, it's not all Jared, but the reason why I give him majority of the credit is he's playing the most important position in football. Now, the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. The run game deserves a lot of credit. Of course, you need receivers to make plays. But the way Jared played, the confidence level he's playing at, like, this is a guy that, again, I don't worry as long as Jared's there. You didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam, and even me, I was concerned about losing Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lucas, we had this conversation. Like, if you lose Amon-Ra, I'm scared. It didn't matter. Like, it seems like as long as you have Laporta, you got Reynolds out there, it'll be enough to win football games.
His best pass catcher out of the backfield, Jared Goff, put up 4 touchdowns, and I don't care that it was against the Carolina Panthers either. I really don't, because at the same time, that's not a terrible defense. It's not a good defense by any stretch, but they have some talented players on there. And not the fact that the stats that he did, but how efficient he was.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there was never a doubt in the game that the Detroit Lions might be in trouble. You knew every time. I think Jared Goff, he said it at the beginning of the season, and by the way he has played, he is entering his prime, and I 100% believe that the way he's playing. If you can go out there, and I can't think of that many quarterbacks around the league where they lose their number one wide receiver, their best receiving back out of the backfield, their safety blanket out of the backfield, and they do that. Mm-hmm. You can't name that many quarterbacks that can do it.
No, it's again, it takes a lot of experience, which Goff he does have a lot of experience, and that does benefit him. Now, this is a guy that was trashed when he was in LA and called a turnover machine, and he's broken. So I think he deserves all the love in the world now. Now, contract negotiations are a whole other situation. You'll handle that, and I've been consistent with this. For me to answer whether or not that I'm comfortable, and I'm not Brad Holmes, but I would sign off on them, extending Jared Goff. For me, it means everything in the postseason. That to me is how Jared's going to make his money. Now, if you want to extend him now, that's fine. For me, at least, I need to wait and see postseason results. But I can't really argue much with the regular season, Sam. Like he's doing what he does best, and he's balling. Now, for Jared, and I saw this comment too, and again, there's a lot of people showing love in the chat because, again, a lot of people are on board with Goff. I see Brandon Katz mentioning that he hasn't had to play from behind. Why is that a knock on Jared? I don't understand.
He had to do it the whole last half of the season in 2022.
So, it's like he hasn't had to play from behind. Yeah, dude, he's scoring on most drives. Like, I don't knock him from not playing from behind. Now, the defenses for the Lions have not faced the greatest quarterbacks over the last 3 weeks. But Jared's playing offense. Like, his job is just to score touchdowns, and he had 4 yesterday, Sam Flannel. So Jared's playing his best ball.
Well, I mean, and even against the Seahawks, he definitely played from behind. I know he had that pick six that extended the Seahawks lead from 3 to 10, but still, he led the drives to bring them back and ultimately tied the game. And then in overtime, he never got the ball back because the defense let up a touchdown. So Jared Goff has played from behind. He's been very, very good this year. The one thing with Jared Goff, though, that I will caution a little bit, because we are all high on Jared Goff right now. He has been, especially since the last 6 weeks of 2021 on, his numbers look like an elite NFL quarterback. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I want to say, and not to sound like a hater, I promise I'm not sounding like a hater. For those of you who just kind of are like, oh, Jared Goff, what more does he have to do for people to get on board? I am on board, but also something else can be true. And it's not necessarily his fault. He still has not won anything of significance in Detroit. I'm not saying that it's his fault. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm saying he hasn't quite yet. Do I think he will this year? Absolutely. Do I think they'll win at least one playoff game? Absolutely. Do I think he will have something like 30 touchdown passes and maybe 10, 11, maybe 9 through 12 interceptions? Absolutely. But still here right now, that stretch that you talk about, 12-3, absolutely unbelievable. Unfortunately, it wasn't in a single season.
100%.
That's the one thing. I would like to see how it plays out this whole year, and then maybe we can talk about extension.
And the impressive part of that, Sam, too, is even though, and again, I don't like having the conversation or bringing up things from last season either, but it's significant because typically, Terry always used to say this, as it doesn't carry over to the next season. Uncle T always said that, but you're seeing it. Like, it is carrying over. They're 4-1. This is a similar team. Actually, it's better defensively, especially, than what you saw last year. So for Jared, and how he's playing, is he the franchise quarterback? Right now, he's playing like one. Now, I'm with you, Sam. I think a lot of it we have to base off the postseason. That's what matters, right? That's where you're trying to get to, Detroit. You're trying to win a playoff game. So you got to be consistent with that. It's easy to kind of get ahead of ourselves. But Jared Goff is doing everything he needs to do. You were in Arrowhead, down in that football game. What happened? Jared Goff was your quarterback, and you ended up finding a way. Brian Branch scored a pick six as well. But regardless, Jared Goff has been your quarterback on the road in Arrowhead, on the road in Lambeau, and he's won both those games. The Lions have, but Jared Goff at quarterback has played well in those games. So I don't know. I think he gets, it's an interesting conversation, but I do think Jared deserves a ton of credit for what he did yesterday. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns last 2 games, which is something funny about Jared Goff. The man has 2 in his career.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, shout out to Jared, by the way. A lot of love there.
If you guys, what would your reaction be? And this is obviously a hypothetical, but if next week Jared Goff gets re-signed, 4 years, $48 million, would you be happy?
2 years, $48 million per
No,
year?
I'm saying 4 years. I'm saying long
4
term.
years.
I'm just saying if they commit.
Well, if they extend Goff, and this is just me critical thinking, if they extend Goff, that means they are more confident in Goff for the future than what Hendon will become. So that, because we've always talked about what is Hendon Hooker, what can he become? That's on the coaching staff to kind of evaluate that. And if they extend Goff, that tells me, hey, yeah, I think Goff is going to be better than Hendon will ever be. And that's, you know what, I'm trusting that decision. But if they see things in Hendon and they think, you know what, we can get this guy to produce on a rookie deal, then that's fine too.
Sure.
But Jared's playing his best ball. So if they extend him, I can't hate it. Like, he gives you he gives you a chance in every game, but in the playoffs as well. He's had, a ton of experience winning playoff games. This is a guy who's won multiple, and your organization has not won one in my lifetime. So, we can't also get too cocky where it's like, yeah, Jared's not good enough. The guy could win playoff games, and he wins in Green Bay, which helps.
Yeah.
I mean, he won that playoff game in Green Bay with Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson both having over 100 rushing yards. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. But no,
I'm talking about the last 2 games, but go on.
I understand. I get what you're saying though. The last 2 years, yeah, 100%. But yeah, Lucas, that's a very interesting hypothetical question. I don't think I could necessarily even be mad at that, even though if it were GM Flannel Sam, which I'm sure all you guys are thankful that it's not, I wouldn't be extending him right now. But if the Lions do it, at the very least, Jared Goff has shown he had some pretty good years in Los Angeles. I know things were insulated, but 2017 and 2018, if you look at those numbers, they look like numbers of an elite quarterback. But in Detroit, he has far surpassed anything he ever was in Los Angeles. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the eye test, when you look at just the situation he had come into, Jared Goff is playing great football. And I wouldn't necessarily do it, but if the Lions and Brad Holmes were to decide that's the right move, who am I to say anything? Jared Goff has been fantastic the last couple of years.